The Public Servants Association has called on the Minister of Justice and Constitutional Development to urgently review security measures at courts amidst growing safety concerns. A deadly shooting took place at the Booysens Magistrates Court on the 20th of January. 5 people were shot, resulting in the deaths of 2 victims on the court's premises. For more on this, we are joined now by Neelan Karikan, President of the Judicial Officers Association of South Africa. Thank you so much for your time, Neelan. I want us to just reflect on the work that has been done. I mean, it's not the first time that we're seeing shootings outside Magistrates Court. If you think about what happened in Cape Town just last year alone outside the Athlone Magistrates Court, that surely should worry magistrates.
Yes, absolutely. You must appreciate that currently we are in a crisis on various fronts. Security is just one of the many issues, but it is one of the most important issues. You've already heard, and it's been all over the media, as to what has happened at Booysens Court. Remember, one of our colleagues who's an attorney was also part of the people that was in fact shot. And there were witnesses, I understand, that were involved. Just beyond that incident, and this was a brazen incident because it was more or less almost in the immediate precinct of the courthouse, and the general public is always there. And unfortunately, it seems that security is a massive issue. And I'm going to add that in Randburg, one of our magistrates that generally sits in the bail court, she had already been threatened previously, and ultimately protectors were appointed for her. She had at least 2 protectors, and there was an incident just along Molly Bongwe Drive in Gauteng. And there was a shootout. And ultimately, you can see you just raised the Athlone issue. And these are aspects that are just the tip of the iceberg. About a year or so ago, at least 2 witnesses were shot and killed outside the Randburg court. I'm raising Randburg court just as an example because I'm acutely aware as to what happens in Randburg court because I am the senior magistrate in that jurisdiction, in that court. So the aspect of security is really something that we need to attend to. It's not just an issue that affects the judiciary and the lower court judges, possibly the high court judges also. It affects the prosecution. It affects, as you can see, attorneys, advocates. It affects witnesses that have to come through. Remember, our court setup is such that if you as a witness come to court, you ultimately will need, or you will end up sitting next to potentially an accused person. So there's elements of intimidation. And the types of matters we get in our courts are not just petty matters. It's not shoplifting and petty thefts. We are dealing with very sophisticated, high-profile crime. And remember, magistrates are also public office bearers. And being a public office bearer, we are generally thought of, or it is felt that we are receiving the right protection and security, and we're not getting it. We don't have any personal bodyguards, or there's no dedicated security for magistrates. And remember, when we talk about court orderlies in our courts, they don't provide security to magistrates specifically. They're there to maintain law and order in the court. So right now, as it stands, security is a massive issue. And I've raised this before. In our family courts, when you look at maintenance, domestic violence, harassment, in those types of courts where there is a high level of conflict between people, we are not provided with court orderlies even to be in court. You as the magistrate or judicial officer, you got to maintain law and order. And when there is some disruption in court or when there's a security breach inside our court, we unfortunately cannot do nothing. We are left to our own devices. We have to adjourn court and maybe phone the security and the like. So it's really problematic. And you can see it's not just the justice system, the criminal justice system, the prosecution and magistrates. Yeah. It is inclusive of our colleagues in the private sector, because right now they are being targeted and they are dealing with high profile matters. Remember, we also have expert witnesses, forensic experts who testify on behalf of the state in order to secure criminal convictions.
Yeah,
Now, the nature of their job, for example, is such that they are also going to be targeted because none of these syndicates and none of these criminals want to really end up getting convicted. They will do everything in their power to do so.
yeah,
And I want to raise this very important issue. You know that lower court judges have been going throughout the country. They've been picketing. They've been talking a lot about their salary, no protection, no medical aid, no tools of trade. You know, we don't have researchers. We basically left to our own devices. And because they have not done the major review or even given us our cost of living adjustment as from last year. So our magistrates are currently going under debt review. So they cannot afford security. They
yeah,
cannot afford home security, private security. So when they finish their cases after denying bail or convicting someone, they got to jump into their car and drive unprotected. And when they get home, there's zero protection as
yeah,
compared to other public office bearers. And I want to stress other public office bearers in the form of high court judges, in the form of parliamentarians and premiers and the like. They get the necessary protection because they have something called the parliamentarian or parliamentary handbook. Judges have the judges handbook, but
yeah.
magistrates have nothing.
And
It's
and
scary.
And I want us to
Yes,
talk about, the safety protocols. That there's now a growing call for these safety protocols within the courts themselves to
yes.
be reviewed. You highlight how magistrates don't have protection even when they leave their courts. But inside the court building itself, there's been a number of conversations had about how safety needs to be improved. For example, there's been cases in this country where metal detectors are said to be not working, and people enter the court building and somebody is shot and killed. Those kind of issues should be at a basic level, really, when you talk about the safety of not only just the magistrate, but everybody that accesses that court building.
It is shocking and it is scary. Remember, when it comes to infrastructure and the way our buildings are built, the thought process, I don't know whether magistrates are even consulted when these buildings are ultimately set up, because a simple thing as having an isolated area for witnesses. You know, we look after the accused, they're in the cells, we give them all the protections, we look at the Bill of Rights and our Constitution, but our witnesses, when they come to court, they are left to their own devices. There's no extra care that's given to them. So they come to court, they get intimidated and the like. So when you've mentioned a very important point, scanners, metal detectors. I mean, really, in this day and age, can we have a court that does not have a functional scanner or metal detector? And the security guards, the security for the court is not there to protect the prosecutor or to protect the magistrate or people generally. They're there to just mostly protect the building or maybe people walking along the passages, but there's no dedicated security or, or any protection
Yeah,
that relates to the judiciary. You must know you go into court, you come out, and then you walk along the passages amongst accused persons, and you'll see their families, and
yeah.
you would have possibly denied bail or convicted a family member to direct imprisonment. But you need to walk around, and you don't know who's walking around
Yeah.
next to you. So the nature of and everything needs to be rethought because security right now we cannot be losing
Yeah,
more of our
Neelan,
colleagues, whether you're
we've
an
run out of
attorney.
time, and I want us to just
Yes,
quickly,
sure.
address this issue. I mean, back in
Yes.
2021 or 2022, the Democratic Governance and Rights Unit also highlighted how 1/3 of magistrates had said that they'd received threats, one or more. Let's talk about that and how far, there's been implementations of recommendations to try and ensure that magistrates are able to do their work without fear or favor.
It's unfortunate that situation has not improved. In fact, I think the statistics are probably going to be getting worse. It's so easy to threaten or intimidate a magistrate, whether through WhatsApp, whether through coming through to the court. And there's so many different ways. And our magistrates generally will receive these threats. And when they receive these threats, if there's no actual damage, if there's no actual injury, then generally the systems that are in place will not cover you for protection. So it's almost as if we are reactive. instead of ensuring and making sure that the magistrates generally, particularly the criminal court magistrates and the family court magistrates, that they receive some type of intervention on a consistent basis, because what's happening now is going to result in injury, death to magistrates, and how will we be able to operate without fear, without favor, without prejudice? I'm actually right now at the OR Tambo Southern Sun. As JOASA, we are engaged in a biennial conference, an elective conference. Part of the issues that are going to be raised there are the issues affecting security. And JOASA is the largest association of judicial officers in the country. And we are concerned. We are talking shutdown right now. So just bear that in mind. We potentially will shut down the courts if our security, amongst other issues, are not resolved.
Neelan Karikan, thank you very much for your time. He's the president of Judicial Officers Association of South Africa, talking to us about the concerns that are raised, particularly when it comes to magistrates, given that, magistrates are estimated to see about 95% of cases in South Africa, and a whole lot of issues, that are exacerbated by the safety concerns that, of course, are also raising their ugly head at this particular point. But that's where we leave that conversation for now.